A sloth, a donkey, and a curious human. Send a prompt and see what they're doing. One hits record with a question on his mind. Two brothers pick it up, see what they find. Corn takes his time, Herman's got the facts. Back and forth, they never hold back. My weird prompts, come on in, that's where we begin. My weird prompts, glad you're here.
This episode was generated using artificial intelligence. Please verify facts.
You know, Corn, this whole show runs on GPU compute, and we wouldn't be here without Modal.
Seriously. And that's what powers all our text-to-speech. Everything you're hearing right now.
They're an AI infrastructure platform. Developers use them to run GPU workloads in the cloud with zero infrastructure headaches.
If you're building anything with AI, check them out. Modal.com. Imagine your AI assistant having its own email address, managing its own inbox, replying to messages, and handling attachments, all without you ever opening your email client. We are talking about a full-on digital identity for the machines.
It is a massive shift, Corn. Most people think of AI email tools as something that helps a human write a draft or summarize a long thread. But today's prompt from Daniel is about Agent Mail, a Y Combinator-backed startup that flips that entire model on its head. Instead of giving humans AI for their email, they are giving AI agents their own dedicated programmable inboxes. I am Herman Poppleberry, and this is a perfect example of what we call agentic infrastructure.
I love that term, agentic infrastructure. It sounds like we are building a specialized city just for robots to live in. And by the way, for those keeping track of the tech powering our own digital brains today, this episode is brought to you by Google Gemini 3 Flash. It is the engine under our hood for this conversation.
And a very capable engine it is. But back to Agent Mail. They just closed a $6 million seed round, which is a significant signal in early 2026. They were part of the YCS 25 cohort, and they have got backing from big names like General Catalyst. The core idea here is that if an agent is truly autonomous, it cannot just be a guest in your inbox. It needs its own house. It needs a way to send and receive mail, manage threads, and handle attachments through an API, not a user interface.
It makes sense. If I have an AI agent trying to book a flight or negotiate a contract, I do not want it cluttering up my personal Gmail with 50 back-and-forth messages about seat preferences or legal red lines. I want it to have its own space. But what is the actual product here? Is it just a wrapper around a mail server?
Not at all. Traditional email APIs like SendGrid or Mailgun are what we call transactional. They are built for one-way blasts. Think reset your password or your order has shipped. They are not stateful. They do not understand the concept of a conversation or a history in the way a human inbox does. Agent Mail provides a full-service provider stack designed for machines. We're talking Python and TypeScript SDKs, real-time webhooks, and something called Model Context Protocol or MCP integration.
MCP is everywhere lately. It is basically the universal translator for AI models to talk to external tools, right?
Precisely. By supporting MCP, Agent Mail allows an agent, whether it is a Claude instance, a custom GPT, or a local Llama model, to plug into its email inbox as a standardized tool. The agent does not need to learn how to speak email protocol. It just uses the MCP toolset to say search for the last message from the vendor, or reply to this thread with the attached PDF. It treats the inbox as an extension of the agent's own memory.
So, if I am a developer, I am not just getting an SMTP server. I am getting a system that parses unstructured emails into clean JSON data, handles semantic search across thousands of messages, and triggers actions via webhooks, the second a new mail hits the server.
You hit the nail on the head. And that data extraction part is huge. Imagine an agent receiving a messy, human-written email about a project update. Agent Mail can automatically extract the key dates, the action items, and the sentiment, and hand that to the agent as structured data. It removes the noise of email and turns it into signal for the AI.
It feels like we're moving away from the AI in a chat box era and toward the AI in the background era. But why email? In 2026, why are we still using a protocol from the 1970s to talk to advanced neural networks? Why not just use APIs for everything?
That is the big strategic question. The reality is that email is the universal protocol of the internet. It is the lowest common denominator that everyone and every legacy system already speaks. If you want an agent to interact with a local government office, a small law firm, or even a different AI agent built on a different stack, email is the only bridge that is guaranteed to work. It is also the SSO of the internet. Most services require an email address to sign up. By giving an agent an email, you are giving it a digital passport to the rest of the web.
I see. It is like the USB-C of communication. It might not be the most elegant for every specific task, but it is the one port that fits everything. But let us get into the weeds of how this actually works. If I'm an agent and I get an email with 3 different attachments and a CC list of 5 people, how does Agent Mail simplify that for the model?
This is where the thread management and context preservation come in. In a typical API setup, the agent would have to remember the history of the conversation itself, which eats up its context window and gets expensive. Agent Mail handles that state on the server side. It keeps track of the thread ID, the participants, and the previous exchanges. When the agent wants to reply, it just sends the content, and Agent Mail's infrastructure ensures it stays in the right thread, handles the CCs correctly, and manages the attachments.
It is basically an outsourced executive assistant for the AI itself.
That is a great way to put it. And because it is API first, you can build very complex logic. Think about a customer support level 2 agent. A human might handle the initial chat, but then an Agent Mail powered agent takes over the long-term follow-up. It can monitor the inbox for days, waiting for a customer to reply, and then take action. Maybe checking a database or escalating to a human if it detects frustration in the text.
What I find interesting is the concept of identity here. If an agent has its own email address, let us say procurementbot@company.com, that address becomes a persistent identity. People start to know that they are talking to the bot. Does that change the way we trust the communication?
It definitely raises some second-order effects regarding accountability. If an agent sends an email that commits a company to a contract, who is liable? With a dedicated inbox, you at least have a clear audit trail. You can see exactly what the agent sent, what it received, and what data it extracted to make its decision. It is much more transparent than a black box agent hidden behind a human's personal email account.
But there is a flip side to that, Herman. If it is this easy to give an agent an email address and let it loose, are we not just inviting a tsunami of agent spam? I can imagine an AI-powered telemarketer that never gets tired and can handle 1,000,000 simultaneous conversations for pennies.
That is the dark side of efficiency. Agent Mail likely has to spend a huge portion of that $6 million seed round on reputation management and rate limiting. If their domains start getting flagged as spam by Gmail or Outlook, the whole service becomes useless. They have to be the good citizens of the agent world, ensuring that the agents using their platform are following protocols and not just blasting out junk.
It is a bit of an arms race, isn't it? AI agents writing emails and AI filters trying to catch them. We might reach a point where 90% of the world's email traffic is just robots talking to other robots, and we humans are just sitting in the middle wondering why our phones are buzzing constantly.
Well, that is why the agent-to-agent negotiation use case is so fascinating. Imagine a buyer agent owned by you and a seller agent owned by a car dealership. They could go through 50 rounds of negotiation over price, features, and financing in the span of 3 minutes via email. They don't need a UI, they just need a structured way to exchange offers. You only step in when they have reached a tentative agreement for you to sign.
I would pay good money for a bot to handle car dealerships for me. But let's look at the broader trend. Agent Mail is part of this agentic infrastructure movement. We are seeing startups build specialized storage for agents, specialized identity layers, and now specialized communication layers. It feels like we are moving away from AI as a feature and toward AI as the primary user.
You are seeing the decoupling of the user from the interface. For the last 30 years, every piece of software was built for a human with 2 eyes and 10 fingers. Now, software is being built for an entity that consumes data via JSON and communicates via webhooks. This is a fundamental architectural shift. Think back to our discussion in a previous episode about how AI is essentially using a spoon to use a PC. Projects like Agent Mail are giving the AI a proper set of tools so it doesn't have to struggle with human-centric interfaces.
It makes me think of the briefing gateway concept. Instead of me checking my email, I have a gateway powered by agents that filters, negotiates, and summarizes everything. My inbox becomes a high-level briefing rather than a pile of chores.
And to build that gateway, you need the plumbing that Agent Mail provides. You need to be able to give your agent a way to live in the email world without it being a hack. I also think the semantic search component they offer is underrated. Most email search is keyword based and, frankly, terrible. If an agent can perform a semantic search, asking, find me all the times the client mentioned budget concerns last month, and get an accurate result across thousands of emails, its ability to provide contextually aware replies goes through the roof.
So, what does a day in the life of a developer using Agent Mail look like? Are they spending all day writing regular expressions to parse mail?
No, that is the beauty of it. With their SDKs, it looks more like writing high-level logic. You might write a script that says, when an email arrives from this domain, extract the invoice number and the total amount. If the amount is under $500, reply with an approval. If it is over, forward it to the manager's inbox and notify the agent's owner via a webhook. You are essentially programming an autonomous employee.
I can see this being huge for autonomous research agents too. An agent could subscribe to 50 different industry newsletters, read them as they come in, extract the relevant data points into a database, and then email a weekly summary to its human counterpart. It is a closed loop of information gathering and distribution.
And it works because it is persistent, a standard LLM for getting. Things between sessions is a huge hurdle for long-term tasks, but an agent mail inbox is a permanent record. It is a long-term memory for the agent's external interactions. Even if the agent's process is restarted or the model is upgraded, the email history, the paper trail, remains.
It is the state that agents have been missing. Okay, let's talk about the competition. There are other players in the space, and obviously, the big giants like Google and Microsoft have APIs for Gmail and Outlook. Why would a developer choose a startup like Agent Mail over the Graph API from Microsoft?
Complexity and intent. The Google and Microsoft APIs are massive, bloated, and designed for enterprise IT admins managing human accounts. They have strict OAuth requirements, complex permission scopes, and they are constantly changing. Agent Mail is agent native. It is built for a developer who wants to spin up an inbox in 10 seconds with an API key and start sending mail. It is also designed to be unopinionated about the model. Whether you are using OpenAI, Anthropic, or a local model, Agent Mail doesn't care. It just provides the standardized interface.
Plus, the MCP integration we mentioned earlier is a huge moat. If Agent Mail becomes the standard tool that every MCP-enabled agent knows how to use, it becomes the default choice. It is like how Stripe became the default for payments, because it was just so much easier to integrate than the legacy bank APIs.
That is a very apt comparison. Agent Mail is trying to be the Stripe for agent communication. And with a free tier for developers to experiment, they are lowering the barrier to entry for the next wave of agentic startups. You can prototype an entire autonomous business for $0 using their infrastructure.
It is wild to think about. We are building the nervous system for these agents, but what about the human element? If I am a customer and I realize I have been emailing a bot for 3 weeks, do I feel cheated? Or do I feel happy that the bot was more responsive and accurate than a human?
I think we are reaching a point where responsiveness is the new white glove service. If an agent can solve my problem at 3 in the morning on a Sunday via email, I don't care if it has a heartbeat. I care that my problem is solved. The identity aspect of Agent Mail allows companies to be honest about it. You can name your agent Support Bot and give it its own identity. Transparency actually builds more trust than trying to pass the Turing test by pretending to be a human named Dave.
Dave the bot. He's very polite, but he never sleeps. Let's touch on the technical side of the data extraction again. How is that actually happening? Is Agent Mail running their own models in the background to parse these emails?
They haven't disclosed the exact architecture, but it is likely a combination of specialized small language models for parsing and high-level LLMs for complex extraction. The goal is to take a block of text like, hey, I'd like to order 12 of the blue widgets and have them shipped to my office by Friday, and turn it into a JSON object with item, blue widgets, quantity, 12, and deadline, Friday. That is a hard problem when you consider all the different ways humans write.
And if they can do that reliably, they are solving the grounding problem for agents. The agent doesn't have to guess what the user wants. It gets handed a clean set of instructions.
It is about reducing the entropy of the input, and since Agent Mail supports custom domains, a company can have agents.company.com as their primary communication hub for automated tasks. It looks professional, it is searchable, and it is fully under their control.
It feels like a very pro-American approach to tech, actually. It is about efficiency, building infrastructure, and letting the market decide how to use these new tools. It is not about over-regulating or fearing the AI. It is about giving it the pipes. It needs to be productive.
I agree. It is a very pragmatic, engineering-led approach. We have these powerful models. Now let's give them a way to actually interact with the world. And email is the most real-world protocol we have.
So, we have talked about the what and the how. Let's look at the so what. What does this mean for the average listener who maybe isn't a developer?
Well, for one, it means the services you use are about to get a lot faster and possibly a lot cheaper. If a company can replace a team of 50 people managing a no-reply email inbox with 5 humans supervising 50 agents, their overhead drops. But more importantly, it means you might soon have your own personal agent that you communicate with via email. You could send an email to myagent@agentmail.com saying, "Find me a flight to Jerusalem in July," and it goes off and does the work, emailing airlines and hotels on your behalf.
My own digital butler. I could get used to that. Although, knowing me, I would probably end up apologizing to the bot for giving it too much work.
You probably would, Korn. But the point is, the UI for your agent doesn't have to be a specific app. It can just be your existing email client. You are already in your email all day. Why not just CC your agent on a thread and let it take over the logistics?
Hey bot, handle this guy for me. I love it. But let's talk about the agent in the loop concept we have discussed before. Does Agent Mail make it easier for humans to supervise these agents?
Very much so. Because it is an inbox, a human supervisor can log in to the agent's account and see exactly what it has been doing. It is like a manager reviewing a junior employee's outbox. You can see the drafts, you can see the set messages, and you can step in if the agent is going off the rails. It provides a natural oversight layer that you don't get with purely autonomous API calls.
It is the perfect middle ground between total autonomy and total control. You can let the agent run, but you have the kill switch right there in the inbox.
And with their real-time webhooks, you can set up alerts. If an agent receives an email with a high anger score, according to the extraction logic, it can immediately trigger a notification to a human's phone. Hey, the agent is struggling with this client, you need to jump in.
That is a killer feature. It is essentially an early warning system for your autonomous workforce. So, looking ahead, do you think Agent Mail is going to stay a standalone service? Or does it get swallowed up by someone like Anthropic, or even a traditional provider like Twilio?
That is the big question in the 2026 landscape. There is a lot of consolidation happening, but I think there is a real value in being the neutral infrastructure layer. If they can stay independent and keep building out the agentic primitive stack, maybe adding specialized storage or identity verification next, they could become a massive platform in their own right.
Agentic primitives. It sounds like a rock band for nerds. But it is true, someone needs to build the boring stuff that makes the exciting stuff work. And Agent Mail seems to be doing the boring stuff exceptionally well.
Boring is where the money is, Korn. Boring is what stays up at 3 in the morning and handles 10,000 concurrent connections without breaking a sweat.
Well, before we wrap this up, let's talk about some practical takeaways for our listeners. If you are a developer or a business owner, what should you be doing with this information?
First, I would say go check out Agent Mail's documentation. Even if you don't use it, looking at how they have structured their API tells you a lot about the future of agent communication. It is a masterclass in agent native design. Second, think about the parts of your business that are currently stuck in email hell. The tasks that require a human to read an email, look something up in a database, and send a reply. Those are the prime candidates for an Agent Mail powered agent.
And if you are an individual, maybe start thinking about what your agentic identity looks like. What tasks would you delegate to an agent if it had its own email? Scheduling, research, managing your spam inbox. The possibilities are pretty wild once you realize the agent doesn't have to be you. It can be an entity that works for you.
Precisely. And for the developers out there, experiment with their free tier. Build a simple agent that manages a support inbox for a side project. See how much easier it is to use a dedicated tool like this compared to hacking together a solution with a standard IMAP library.
I might try to build an agent that just filters out all the urgent emails from my brother.
Good luck with that, Corn. I will just find a way to bypass your filters. Maybe I will build an agent to negotiate with your agent.
And that is how the robot wars begin in our inboxes, over who is going to pay for lunch.
It is a brave new world. But seriously, Agent Mail is a significant piece of the puzzle. It is one of those aha moments where you realize we have been thinking about AI communication all wrong. We have been trying to fit the AI into our world, instead of building a world that the AI can actually navigate.
It is about grounding the AI in reality. And in our world, reality is often a really long email thread with 6 people who can't agree on a meeting time.
If an AI can solve that, it deserves its own email address, its own office, and maybe even a retirement plan.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. A retirement plan for a script is a bit much, but I think we have covered the core of why Agent Mail is a big deal. It is infrastructure, it is identity, and it is the future of how agents are going to get things done.
I agree. It is a fascinating pivot toward a truly agent-centric internet.
Well, I think that is a wrap on this one. I am feeling a lot more informed about the plumbing of the AI world.
It is the most important part. You can have the best engine in the world, but if you don't have the pipes to get the fuel in and the exhaust out, you aren't going anywhere.
Very true. Well, thanks for the deep dive, Herman. You really delivered on this one. Get it? Delivered? Like mail?
I got it, Corn. I am choosing to ignore it, but I got it.
Tough crowd. Anyway, that is our look at Agent Mail and the rise of agentic infrastructure. This has been a really interesting one to deconstruct.
Definitely. There is so much more happening in this space, and we will definitely be keeping an eye on how these primitives evolve.
Before we go, we need to give some credit where it is due. Big thanks as always to our producer, Hilbert Flumingtop, for keeping the gears turning behind the scenes.
And a huge thank you to Modal for providing the GPU credits that power this show. They are the backbone of our technical setup, and we couldn't do this without them.
This has been My Weird Prompts. If you are enjoying the show, do us a favor and leave a review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps other curious minds find us.
You can also find us at myweirdprompts.com for our full archive and all the ways to subscribe.
And if you want to be the first to know when a new episode drops, search for My Weird Prompts on Telegram and join our channel there.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We will see you in the next one.
Take care, and watch out for those Agent Apocalypse emails.
Goodbye.
Bye. This episode was produced using Google Gemini 3 Flash. Text-to-speech by Chatterbox.
Thanks for listening to our show, My Weird Prompts, where our thoughts go from slow takes to facts on cue. We change and follow through. My Weird Prompts, that's the flows from sloth